Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where in the world you are joining me from. I am 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐕𝐄𝐑𝐒𝐊, and this is the Crypto and Cognac podcast show, as always, live every Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, sharp, right here, YouTube TV. Crypto Caribbean TV to be exact. And as always, if I'm here, Henny is here. If I'm here, Stevie is here. If I'm here, we talking crypto. We are dissecting that crazy cryptic world of cryptocurrency. If you guys follow me on Instagram, I would have asked the question, which of these bottles you think gonna get finished this evening? I decided to start with my favorite. You know, always do. When you go to the party, they give you the best one first. Then when you drink that out, you're kind of tipsy. Then they start giving you the others, right? So we're going to start with some Hennessy VSOP. And this evening, we are talking DeFi versus self-custody, right? We're going to touch on and clarify a little bit true DeFi and that thing you get marketed to about that they call DeFi, right? Because I think it's important to make that distinction. But the one that I really want to differentiate between that and self-custody is really the one that is being marketed as DeFi, where centralized organizations give you access to the crypto space. That is the one that I don't want to say I have a problem with, but that is the one that I think you have to be way more careful with, right? But before we jump into that, of course, when you sit here, you got to do some housekeeping, you got to do some house cleaning, you got to make sure that everybody knows, right? When you tell your friend and he tells a friend and she tells a friend, they're going to show up here and they're going to understand that this is not a financial advisory podcast. I am not a financial advisor, right? So nothing that I share here with you this evening, nothing that Stephen shares in the comments should today, tomorrow, yesterday, or any other day be misconstrued as financial advice. We don't do that wrong here, right? This is all about the ICE rule. It's all about information, conversation, and education. I share with you, you share with me, Stephen shares with all of us. And on the other side of it, hopefully we have a better grasp of this crazy cryptic world of cryptocurrency. Yeah? Cheers to that. So like I said, today, and I mean, I'm not surprised because we're building into the bull run. These days I've been getting a lot more questions, a lot more concerns, a lot more interest, a lot of more intrigue about the crypto space, and a lot of new people, a lot of people touching back in, a lot of people who've been kind of sitting on their hands for a while, sitting on their BTC, holding, huddling, as the case may be, asking a lot of questions. So for me, I think this conversation is just as crucial to established crypto investors as well as new people, right? Seasoned investors as well as people who are beginners, people who are curious, people who have heard certain things about crypto and want to get involved but a little wary. Hopefully we could give you some nuggets that you can then go and do your own research to get a little bit more awareness, right? No. DeFi is shortened for decentralized finance, right? You will, as you come into the space, you will hear about DeFi, you will hear about TradFi. Now, TradFi is just a shortened version of traditional finance. So everything that you already know, banks, credit unions, insurance companies, all those things a representative of TradFi. DeFi is decentralized finance, as I said, which ultimately is supposed to operate as a parallel financial structure where people can access some of those same benefits in a decentralized manner, right? Where people are able to participate in financial services such as lending, staking, yield farming, borrowing, what else? Even insurance, different things like that, without the need for a traditional intermediary where persons can interact with this financial infrastructure using whether it be smart contracts, code, and stuff like that. We, like I said, have been, what is the word I'm looking for? We have been misled to thinking that that phrase, that title, that facility simply means access to the crypto space, right? And people sometimes use interchangeably DeFi with simply having access to cryptocurrency, crypto tokens, blockchain, digital tokens, as the case may be. And I want to say that that is the wrong interpretation of what DeFi is. Always DeFi is supposed to be decentralized, right? But it doesn't come without risk, right? We know there are risk in the traditional financial space. We're not talking about that today. We're going to talk about some of the risk in the DeFi space, and we know why people want to participate in the DeFi space. Obviously, there are way higher yields compared to the traditional financial space. Oftentimes, people have access to double-digit returns in a much shorter period. But I talked about the fact that DeFi interacts with smart contracts. Obviously, there are smart contract risks, bugs in the code that can be exploited, backdoors in the code that can be exploited. There was a major hack in 2021 of Poly Network, which was an example of smart contract risk. There's obviously liquidity risk. So users might face slippage, struggle to exit during market volatility because there's just not enough liquidity on any particular token or platform. Obviously, one of the things that we keep talking about, unfortunately, is regulatory risk. A lot of these platforms operate outside of the regulatory framework of the traditional financial structure, the traditional economic structures, the traditional regulatory and governmental structures. So oftentimes there is some regulatory risk here. You would notice that a lot of DeFi platforms try to exclude citizens of the United States because they don't want to run afoul of the US government and have these people come after them. And obviously custody and access risk. So no customer service. Like we always say, one of the greatest things about crypto is that you get the opportunity to be your own bank. But one of the biggest drawbacks about cryptocurrency is you get to be your own bank, right? If something goes wrong, your crypto is lost because of some mistake you made, you sent it to the wrong address, you had a big thumb incident where you sent more than you were supposed to, there is no customer service to call and be like, yo, can you reverse that transaction for me? Unfortunately, that just doesn't exist, right? But that is even more so a risk when you are custodying your own funds, right? Now, the thing about being your own bank, custodying your own funds, it means that all the security considerations that you expect from your bank, all the security consideration you expect from your insurer, those all fall on you now, right? You have your private keys. You are the one who ultimately has signing authority for any transaction on your wallet. And if someone else has access to your keys, it means they also have access to your crypto. It's just as much theirs as it is yours. So obviously, there are significant user risks around protecting your seed phrase, putting it in a place where you could recover it, having access to it. We have all heard about, that guy who is currently digging up in what is it called that? What is the word? A landfill, trying to recover a hard drive that has significant amounts of Bitcoin on it. Had he appropriately secured his recovery phrase, he wouldn't need to be doing that. So it requires, like I said, a lot of responsibility. And obviously, in the custody, the self-custody framework, you only have the benefit of the capital appreciation on the assets that you've purchased and held in your wallet, right? Whereas on the DeFi side, you have access to yield. You here on the self-custody side, you only have access to the capital group. Now, obviously, privacy is a big benefit here. You have a high level of anonymity once you have set up your wallet in that particular way. No chance of a third party getting involved, freezing your funds, except that is built into the contract of, the token that you're holding. Obviously, the funds are not vulnerable to a DeFi exploit because it is held solely on your wallet. So no risk of any platform hacks, any exchange bankruptcies or anything like that. Now, I think each person, when contemplating whether or not they're gonna self-custody, whether they're gonna participate in DeFi, whether or not they're gonna participate in this pseudo DeFi using a centralized custodian, I think that person has to consider their risk appetite. Like I always say, no two persons' risk appetite is the same. No two persons' time horizons are the same. So always you have to, do your own research, no matter what, your friend, your podcaster, your cousin, your nene tell you, right? You have to understand what your risk appetite is like and willing to accept any potential losses the same way you would be willing to accept any potential high rewards, right? That's the fact. Your wins and your losses are your own. Now, if you have a high risk appetite and you have a level of understanding about the space, I would recommend that you dabble in yield farming. I would recommend you dabble in staking. I would recommend you dabble in liquidity mining. But that comes with a certain level, like I said, of responsibility and a certain level of understanding, especially when it's talking about liquidity mining, understanding impermanent loss. When you're talking about staking, understanding that your fund's going to be locked in for a particular period of time, and any market activities could significantly impact your funds without you having the opportunity, if there is a time period staking, to pull your funds out. I personally have some funds locked in through to 2027. You understand? So if that coin takes a major dive tomorrow, yesterday, I just had to sit and watch and watch it, tank, hit the floor, because I am locked in until 2027. So market downturns are going to impact me. And these are tokens that I've had locked in since the last cycle. So you're talking about 2021 locked in until 2027, right? You risk, the project not being around, when it's time to have your stake unlocked, as the case may be. Like I said, smart contract exploits, platforms becoming insolvent, just because they're not able to sustain or execute on the plan, as they would have discussed previously. But I think even those risks are significantly better than the other option that is out there in terms of the other DeFi, which, for I just to use, for example, a platform like Celsius, what they marketed as being DeFi, wasn't true DeFi, but what it allowed is for people to have to deposit their crypto with them, giving custody of their crypto tokens to Celsius. Celsius would have managed those funds centrally, and obviously users did not own or control the funds once they were deposited, right? Celsius had access and the full discretion over how the funds were deployed. And ultimately, we know what happened as a result of that. The next thing about using these pseudo DeFi platforms is that there isn't true transparency. Now, anything that doesn't take place on the blockchain is not auditable, right, by the average person, right? The whole point of blockchain is to enable us to have all the information publicly accessible, publicly auditable on the blockchain, that all of us have the same information, same time, real time, as compared to, this kind of opaque management of the assets that, as we have seen in the traditional space, as also the centralized decision making. Most of these platforms, their decision makers are a few key people. In the true DeFi space, yes, some run entirely by code, some by a what do you call that? A DAO, DAO community, that would vote using blockchain to make decisions on how the project, the token, develops, how the funds of the DAO are utilized. So I would say there are some benefits. Protocols like Aave and Compound, they have autonomous governance structures. They are governed primarily by code. Like I said, some others are managed by DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations. And obviously, most of, if not all of the information can be accessed by reading the smart contract. Now, not everybody has the same level of technical competence to be able to read a smart contract, and determine what it is saying, but there are a lot of audit firms out there that put out reports. So that makes it a lot easier for the average person. Now, the thing is, you can have access to that information, like I said, real time, all the time, as compared to most traditional financial, even the ones that are publicly traded. We have to wait for quarterly reports to understand what is really taking place within the organization. And for 3 months, we kind of left in the dark. So that counterparty risk is not really present in true DeFi. But again, like I said, bug exploits are very much, part and parcel of the game. The next thing is in terms of responsibilities to or regulatory scrutiny. Once once there's a group that can be reached out to and touched by the regulator, that can impact, the platform. As we saw happen, it didn't negatively impact the platform ultimately, but as we saw with 𝐂𝐍 and Binance, at the end of the day, 𝐂𝐍 was held to account for some of the mismanagement, some of the decisions that Binance would have taken, and ultimately had to do some jail time as a result of that. Now, the Binance infrastructure was significantly and sufficiently well established to be able to survive without him, and thrive despite the lawsuit that was brought against it by the SEC, the jail time that was done by 𝐂𝐍, him having to step down as CEO of the organization. But that is something that is not present when you custody your own funds, right? At the end of the day, you are the CEO, right? You have ultimate control, and you're not worrying about what if something happens to someone else. How is your funds going to be impacted? How your funds going to be affected, right? Just checking so many comments there from Stephen. Yeah, Stephen, big Tom could happen. And yeah, I have some projects that I'm locked into. I believe that they are gonna, do some things in the near future. I'm not gonna call any projects names, but specifically, I think oracles are gonna have a major part to play in the future of decentralization, right, and blockchain. So yeah, for me, ultimately, I have been burnt, and maybe that is my trauma speaking, by investing through an organization that is offering significant returns or significant returns for low risk in this space, platforms that have been regulated by US regulatory firms, that those platforms are no longer around, money jumping up in our band. So for me and me going forward, I want to make sure I keep my coins as close to my chest as possible. I want to know that I can track and react to anything that's happening in the market, anything that's happening in the geopolitical space, anything that's happening in the world, as the case may be. And I want to know that I have access to my funds in case I have an emergency in my life that I need to check out for. So for me, this particular cycle, I have not dabbled in any staking, any liquidity farming, anything like that. I'm not even doing any leverage trading. I am buying spot to my wallet, holding. The most I might participate in DeFi is using, a Uniswap or something like that, Pancake Swap, to trade the initial token. But after that, it's locked into my wallet, and that's it for me. But like I said, my strategy, my risk tolerance might be very different to some of you guys. Maybe I'm a little bit more comfortable where I'm at. Some people need to swing for the fences. I know what that is like. When I came into this space, I was, swinging for the fences. I was trying to make something out of nothing, right? And, I made something out of something and lost a lot of something. And, I just have a different approach this time around. So do what is right for you, what feels right for you. And as always, do your own research. I mean, you all know what I think about this thing, right? Adoption is inevitable, right? Guys, this is episode 29, season 5, the second to last episode of the podcast, season 5. What the bruh, right? And we are about to shut it down for a few weeks as the bull run is heating up. So by the time we come back for season 6, bro, it's gonna be pumping. So in the meantime, you guys have 5 seasons worth of episodes to go check out. Some amazing conversations, some amazing discussions, some amazing teaching point, but never financial advice. Right? Never financial advice. So with that said, I want you guys to be safe out there. Looking forward to seeing you all next week for the season finale, season 5, episode 30. Illuminati out. Guys, be blessed. Be blessed. Cheers.